Bob Van Rossum with Market Pro, and through our executive search practice, we talk to candidates all day, and our candidates interview with clients on a daily basis, and we get a lot of feedback from the process that tends to be ultimately pretty interesting, right? If they get to our client, they've already interviewed with one of our senior associates, they've interviewed with one of our partner level people, so they've been through 2 interviews with us before they get to our client. So we're very confident in their skills, background, and experience. So now they get to our client and they're going through the process, and every once in a while, this isn't common, but I'd say every once in a while we have a candidate push back on either an interview question that was asked or a presentation that they've been asked to give because they feel like they're giving away too much information, or they're sharing something that could be considered intellectual property, or it's considered, am I giving away free consulting? And it's a pretty short-sighted concern. We don't really see clients looking for, free consulting from candidates. That's not the way the process works, either in questions or presentations. Now, did it ever happen? Yes, it happened, 6, 7, 8 years ago in Silicon Valley, San Francisco. Startups were putting CMO jobs out there. So we're looking for a chief marketing officer, and they'd interview 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 CMOs, take them through a process. Each one was asked then to do a full-blown marketing plan for the organization. And the company would not hire any of them. They would hire someone much more junior, kind of senior manager, director level, drop 8 or 10 marketing plans on their desk and say, you're our new head of marketing, see what you can do. And like all unethical, bad business practices that come to light, it went away because it needed to die, because candidates in executive search firms, although we never saw that, would push back, right, and not allow that to happen anymore. So while it did at some point in time happen, it no longer is something that we're seeing, nor do we even see that that's the intent. Now, specifically, we try to discourage our clients from doing something within a case-based or a presentation. And I like presentations, but specifically I try to discourage them from doing something that is specific to their business, specific to a brand, specific to a product, specific to overarching marketing strategy. We want that off the table if at all possible, but it's really not why the candidates think. It's not because we're concerned they're going to ask you about free consulting, or they want something from you that isn't really a fair question in the process. The reason we do that is as much research as you've done on the organization, as much as you've learned through the interview process, because now you've had multiple rounds, and as much as your experience and background is a good fit for the role, you still really don't know enough to do an adequate job with a marketing plan that you would be able to do if you've been working there 90 or 100 days, right? And the people that you're interviewing with, the people that you're presenting to, work inside the organization, so they know much more than you. And so we don't want to see candidates set up to fail because the expectations are that of someone who's been a CMO with us for 3 years or 4 years or 5 years and would have that level of knowledge, even though they're just on their 3rd or 4th interview. But from time to time, we'll have candidates call us after an interview and say, hey, I'm following up. They asked me this question and I thought it was too invasive or asking me too much, or they wanted to get free consulting, so I wouldn't answer it. Or I gave them a half-hearted answer. Or we get to the point where we are doing a presentation, we have not been able to dissuade our customer from doing it specifically on their business. And candidates push back and say, I really don't want to do that because I don't want to give away my intellectual property. I don't want to give away free consulting, or will they pay me for that, right? And all those are really short-sighted. The reality here is they are trying to hire someone to be their next chief marketing officer, or their next head of e-commerce, or their next head of performance marketing, or their next communications leader, right? And they have every reasonable expectation to want to vet that person as detailed as possible to make sure that it's a good fit for both sides. And the flip side of that is the candidate has every reason to want to vet them, ask them appropriate questions to make sure the role's the right fit, the culture's the right fit, the leadership team is the right fit, and both sides need to come to a point where they feel like this is a great opportunity and a great next step, right? And so be really careful if you get into the process and you start to feel like, hey, they're asking me too much, or maybe they're asking me for something that is free consulting or something that is, you know, more than I would expect in this process. The higher you get in the organization, the more you get close to the C-suite or in the C-suite, the more they're going to ask and the more detail they're going to want, and the tougher the interviews get. So be aware of that and just be willing to give as much of yourself as possible, which one will give the best representation of your skills, background, and experience, but two will also show a ton of humility, and people want to work with people that they like. So ultimately, it's much more easy to like someone who's humble than it is to like someone who comes across as egotistical or self-serving, which is the way you come across when you say, I don't want to do that for reasons that are ultimately 99% of the time going to be invalid. Bottom line is, anytime we've had a candidate take that approach, the approach of, I'm not going to answer this question in full, or I'm not going to give my best to this presentation or this case because I feel like it's free consulting or intellectual property or something that is out of bounds for the process, because they're asking me about their business and they're asking me to add value to their business in the interview process. I've not ever seen a candidate with that attitude end up with a job offer.